Hello and welcome. So it's really been a while I recorded the video because I was relocating and trying to adjust. But now I am back and I will continue from where I stopped. And I've created a simple HTML boilerplate, and the only thing I've given is a title, CSS positioning, which is what I want to talk about in this video. And I've opened it in the live server. As you can see, nothing is shown here except the title. So what we want to do now is we want to talk about positioning in CSS, and I will pull up this image here, this screenshot I took, and I will try to use it to explain what positioning is about. So this is it. There are three types, there are five types rather of positioning in CSS, how we can position items. And the first one is static. It is the default one. It is not affected by the top, bottom, left, right properties of values. Then the second one is relative. If we give them the value of top, bottom, left or right, it causes the element to move from its normal position. And then the third one is absolute positioning. Absolute positioning is position relative to its parent element. So the parent has to be positioned as relative, and then absolute positioning can take place. Then if we talk of the fifth one, which is the fourth one, which is fixed, the fixed positioning is on its own position relative to the viewport, and it is fixed. And then sticky, which is the last one, is positioned based on scroll positions. And I will explain each of these with examples. So what I will do now is we have a simple HTML boilerplate. I will create a class of box with an ID of box 1, and I'll duplicate this 5 times, and let's change all the box to 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so what we're going to do now is to style them, because if I save now we won't see any effect on the page. So I'll style the class of box, and what I'll style here, I'll just give them a width of say 300 pixel and the height of 300 pixel. And then for each of the box with ID, I'll style them. For box 1, I'll try to just give them some colors so we can see them. So for the background color for each of them, I'll give this a background color of red, and now I'll duplicate this 4 times so I can make this faster. For the second one, I'll give a background of green. For the third one, I'll give a background of blue. For the fourth one, I'll give a background of purple. And for the fifth one, I'll give a background of, let's say, black. And we save now, we see what we've made. We have the 5 boxes of length and height, of width and height 300 pixel. Now let us begin to talk. Now for the first one, I have already told you from this that it is static and it is not affected, and it is the default. So if I am to use the position attribute and give it static, nothing changes. That is for the first one. But once we change it to relative, and we can now begin to position it. Let's say I want it to be 20 pixel from the top and 20 pixel from the left. So if I save this now, you see it has moved 20 pixel from the top, 20 pixel from the left. So we've seen how we can do this one. Now if I change this back to static, like we said here, it is not affected by this top, left, bottom. So you see it returns back because it is static. So, and it is the default. So you see what this relative can do. So we can position anything we want, and when we scroll, it moves. So the next one is absolute, and it is relative to its parent element. So what I'll do now is I'll come here and I'll create a div called parent, and inside this div I will cut box 3, 2 and 3 and put it inside of here, format it very nicely, and I'll save it. So I'll now try to style the class of parent so we can make it visible. I'll give it a height of a width of, let's say, 600 pixel and a height of 600 pixel, and I will also give it a background color of pound. Okay, since we're using, let's say, coral, so if I save, you would see that we have the green and the blue inside of the coral color. Let me make this quite big so we'll get more space. Now this is what we have, and we have some extra space here. Now if we want to style this, we want to position this inside this box, that is where we use absolute. We are going to position this as absolute and we position this as relative. So if I begin to position the second one, the green one, let's say position absolute, and let's give it a top of 50 pixel and a left of, let's say, 50 pixel as well. And if I save now, you see it goes out of the box and tries to try to position itself outside. So for us to put it inside of this, we have to give this parent box a position of relative. So if we give it a position of relative, we see now it comes into the box. So we can also position this one. Let's position this one here using bottom right property. So for the box 3, we'll still give position absolute, and we now bottom 20 pixel, right, let's give it 20 pixel as well, and we save it. So if we come here now, we see we've positioned it here. So that is how we use absolute positioning. I want you to understand how it is actually done. So next, what we are going to do is, let's talk about the next one, which is fixed. Fixed position is, once we use it, it is fixed at a particular spot. So let's say we want to fix this purple button somewhere here, this purple box here, so that even when we scroll, it will still remain at that position. So we use fixed and position fixed bottom 50 pixel, right 50 pixel, and we save. So it will be at this point. Even when we scroll, it remains at that point. So that is fixed. Now the next one is sticky. So when we give sticky, we want it to stay at a particular point when we hit. Okay, for instance, now we've given sticky, on its own nothing happens, it still remains there. But if we give, let's say, top 20 pixel and we save it, and now when we begin to scroll, okay, I'll give this the body a very large width so that we can scroll. So for the body, a very large height rather, I'll give a height of, let's say, 4000 pixel. So when we begin to scroll, and when it gets to 20 it sticks there. And if you look at this, it continues to scroll, but that one is sticked there. And then when we begin to come down, once it meets others, it comes down too. So sometimes you would require this for your menu, that at that instance you put this at 0, so that if it's your menu, once you scroll and it reaches the top at 0, it stops there and others will continue to show, and when you come back it continues from there. So that is that about positioning in CSS.